Sometimes healing doesn't come from learning something new. It comes from remembering what was true before the noise. In stillness, in breath, in heat, I met myself again. When the body is listened to, the breath becomes honest. And when the breath is honest, the story we no longer need falls away.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren and Jessica Salquist coming at you from Next Level.
Good vibes only.
What's up? Today we're going to go into a conversation that, or a podcast, I guess, about Jessica's just got back from a retreat. And not only that, but she's also celebrating her level 50 birthday.
That's right.
Yeah, so part of that celebration was going on this retreat that you had planned for how long ago?
I thought it was 10 months ago, but I realized when I looked back, I think I knew within like 11 months. So I think it was shortly after the last retreat.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about so people understand like what is this retreat all about and what made you say yes?
Yeah. So this was a spiritual retreat. And when I say spiritual, kind of bringing it back to the quotes a little bit, just talking about, how we always expect ourselves to learn something new and bring that to the table and bring in more wisdom and bring in more action. And I think all of those things are absolutely important. But in that quote, it said it comes from remembering what was true before the noise. And what I realized is how much life is noisy and how easy it is to get caught up in the noise. And I thought, hey, this would be great to be able to kind of get away and do a little reset so that I can move away from the noise. Because within that noise, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of distraction. And for me, I just slowly lose my connection to my identity and who I really am and what's most important to me. It just gets very clouded to think of all the things that are most important for everyone else. And for me, this, like I said, it was just this reset, a conscious decision to step away from the distraction and the obstruction and return to my presence.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people get caught up in the chaos. And sometimes that they allow themselves to be there because then they don't need to take a look at themselves. Because sometimes even that taking a look back at themselves in the moment, there's a lot of chaos going on in there. And then just at least getting lost in it allows you not to to pause and take a look at yourself to create change.
Yeah.
And then it's easier to blame all the chaos that's going around you versus taking that moment to actually do some work onto yourself. So that's kind of what this workshop or this retreat was about.
Yeah. And I just knew that I was going to be headed to a place that had a history. There was some culture, a deep sense of this intention to connect with a place in Mexico that has a really long, ancient history. And I don't want to mispronounce it, but Tepoztlan, Mexico, is a very spiritual place that has Aztecan history. It's beneath a very sacred mountain, a birthplace of Aztec gods. And one of the things that I noted is it's a place where the veil between the human and spiritual world feels very thin. And for centuries, people have gone to this space for prayer, for connection, and for energy and ancestral wisdom. And that drew me to that place. And the more that I got closer, and even while I was there, I continued to learn about the sacred land and the mountains. And we arrived at this retreat that you basically faced these very spiritual and sacred mountains. And that became even more important to the connection to Mother Earth and the things that I was learning at that time.
Yeah. So prior to your date that you were going to leave, you did some work up before that to prepare yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about last time also was we just closed out the year of the snake and we're entering into the year of the horse, and it's actually the fiery horse.
Fire horse. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
something that I believe that you put together to give yourself the best opportunity to go into this retreat with shedding the old skin, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And coming into growth. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. And that was one of the things that was most impactful for me leading up to this was creating a primer. I called it a primer. It was 14 days of preparing yourself for some deep work. I knew that there was going to be breath work and some deep work during this retreat. So I created this primer so that I can show up grounded. I didn't realize how impactful it would be for me because it really helped me with creating some intention of being there and being present. And it allowed me to really work through some things that I was able to. And what that included is just very gentle to moderate breath work in the morning. There was some somatic anchors, some journaling prompts, which was actually the journaling part of it helped me the most. And then the integration question that carried me through the day. And that just helped me realize my connection and focus. And my intention for this retreat was to really focus on love and how I can flourish with love and how I can receive love in a better manner and give love more wholeheartedly to the people that mean the most to me, and just tapping into my true spirit of healing self and others, and letting go of that ego. I knew that ego was going to be a really big part of it. And so some of the things that stood out for me the most in my journaling and some of the quotes that guided me through some of those prompts were, I keep the wisdom and I release the weight. I move forward without abandoning myself, and I don't have to earn transformation. And I trust my breath, my body, and I trust my movement. And those 4 things stood out for me the most during that 14 days is that I can learn things and drop the weight. So I can go through challenges, I can grow through trauma, I can go through all these things in my life. But I can keep that wisdom and I don't have to keep the burden of it. And I think a lot of people carry the burden with the wisdom with them, but it gave me permission to allow that to go away and that I can become a better version of myself without abandoning who I am. I will always be connected to me, which I find another area where humans seem to struggle, and that I don't have to earn transformation. I can just be part of transformation. I don't have to earn it. It is mine by, I was just say, by my intention of it in itself. And through all of that, through the breath and the body and the movement, just really trusting the self.
And were those prompts that you created before the event or what you received during?
Those were prompts that I created before the event that really rang true to me as I was going through the retreat, as something that became even more meaningful and more powerful for me during the actual retreat itself.
Mm-hmm. So when you arrived and you left from here and arrived down in Mexico City, what was that experience, just arriving into this town that you have never been to before? And then how did that environment what was that like for you, the arrival, and then kind of getting into this new environment and this different culture?
Yeah. So we spent 2 days in Mexico City before we went down south. And that was a good intro into just being in Mexico. I've really never been to the heart of Mexico. I've been Bajas, Cabo, things like that, where it's very geared towards speaking English and, tourism. And so it was nice to go outside of that and honestly get to feel the uncomfortableness of not knowing, Spanish very much. I tried my hardest. I had my apps out and I ordered in Spanish, and I really was finding that, how much of a connection it is to learn the language wherever you were going. And so I got to stumble through a lot of that, and it was embarrassing sometimes, and I was shy to do so. But at the same time, I realized that hopefully it was a form of respect that I was really intentfully trying to connect in ways. And we went on a historical tour, so we got to hear about Mexico City actually being built on a a lake, from again, Aztecan times, long time ago, where there was I think an eagle on a cactus with a snake in its mouth, and that was a symbolism of like, when you find this place, you will build a city. And so, going through many years of change and different rulership and people who had control of that area, there's a lot of history there. And part of that was for me to slowly start disconnecting with social media and those kind of things, so that I can be fully present when I actually got to the retreat. So just learning about the history and the culture was something that I was intentfully doing as I prepared for the actual day of the retreat.
On the day of the retreat, what was that? What was the first session? What was your introduction to the start of the retreat?
Well, we all arrived there. So it was like an hour and a half taxi drive. And everybody warns you, like, you're going to be like driving in a taxi, and the taxi drivers kind of drive a little chaotic. Nobody really, puts blinkers on. There's big roads and just like California, but even a little more crazy, I'd say, is mopeds and bikes driving in and out of your, where your cars are. And then you're going up into a mountainous area and elevation. And so you're like preparing yourself just for like the ride there. And then once you arrive there, you're going through a small town, and then you get to this really beautiful retreat, and you're welcomed and you're greeted, and you go to your room. And then you just, first of all, it was just like breathtaking, having this beautiful view of this mountainside, that you get to feel like this is your, pleasant place that you get to now relax and rest. And so that was around 4:00. And then we had our first like meet and greet kind of session, where we all come around a large circle with the altar in the middle. There's about 14 of us, and we get to share, who we are, and then what our intentions was for that retreat. And really, really basic in the beginning, where we just answer a few questions, and then we get to have our first meal together.
Awesome. And so what were some of the most impactful techniques or exercises that you practiced during your, was it mainly breathwork sessions that you guys did, or what else?
It was 3 main breathwork sessions, and they were super like impactful and intense. But there's so many other parts of it. You get actual downtime in between the sessions for journaling and reflection. You have one-on-ones with people where you are given prompts and you get to process through them. There's open circles where you come back together in the circle, where you are asking or answering questions. And so the breathwork part of it is great. And when I first said yes to going on this retreat, I thought it was just going to be all breathwork, which I realize now would have been highly, highly exhausting. Because
you had 3 breathwork sessions over the period of, how many did you do? Like the first day, second day, you were there for how many days at the retreat?
You're there. You start really on the Monday, and then you leave halfway through Friday. So
you had the breathwork sessions in what?
The breathwork, I think it was on like day 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, in the meat of the retreat itself.
And then so during those after your first breathwork session, what was that like for you with that experience?
It was a good intro. I felt a lot of energy. Each breathwork session built on the other for me, and it was very much where I just became more present, and I went deeper and deeper. I mean, there's obviously some things that I probably am not going to share on the podcast, but each one had its own intensity to it. What I will say that was very consistent between all 3 of them is that it was beautiful simplicity. The fact that I could breathe, very similar to some of the breath work we've done, the breathing in twice, stomach to chest, and then out, longer, more intense exhale.
The 2 quick breaths and then,
Yeah. The simplicity of it was amazing. It just took me to a different place than some of the other breath work I have done here locally. And it had this similar vibe. It was very, very light music, but the music was very intentional, and it kept you grounded, and it took you through like the prompts of the breath work itself. Jacob, who is the person who puts on the retreat, is just encouraging you to keep going, trust in yourself, encouraging you to keep with it. Sometimes, and he knows it's hard. It's just like keep doing it, and so you get to have this connective spirit with these 14 other people sitting in this circle. And what the other consistent manner was is that I felt so much energy in my hands, and it felt almost debilitating at times, but there was so much energy there that it was it was this amazing feeling at the same time as like wonder and awe, right? A lot of curiosity, and there was times where I felt this ball of energy under both of my feet, and you could feel the energy, filling the room and the vibration and the emotion. There's a lot of emotion, tears of joy, feelings of connection, even like spirit guides and ancestral voices and presence that are coming through you, that are just giving you like almost like a high five, like you're just like, oh, affirming who you are. There's a lot of forgiveness, but just and there's a lot of intensity, but it was very calming. So I was never fearful. I was never scared. But I felt very at peace, and I felt a lot of love. At the same time, there was a lot of energy.
And do you feel like, how was this different versus the workshops that we've done here, the breath workshops, versus the energy, maybe the environment, the expectations of going in, knowing that you were going there for this experience versus the ones that we go to, which is a little bit different, I guess.
Yeah.
We're just going there for the experience.
Yeah. I think there are big differences. This is a spiritual location. I can't deny that. There's, like I said, people go there to pray and heal and be closer to their ancestors and just feel this wisdom and guidance. There's a lot of native, presence that I will speak to about the sweat lodges and things like that. But I would say what I was thinking about was you just don't go there and you get into the breath work. Some of the breath work we do here, which is amazing, and I love it and I appreciate it, is sometimes you do a little somatic dance. Sometimes, you do a small intention, or you say your own intention, and then you go into this intense breath work. So what I liked about this session, this whole experience, was that you kind of built up to it. You're trusting and bonding with the people around you. So that energy you're creating in the room with people is very different than, coming together and just kind of having a couple hours together. You're spending, total, if you look at half day, 5 total days, 4 days of actual really intensely doing things. So you're trusting each other, you're connecting, you're getting to know each other, you're sharing a lot of sacred, private things about you, about what you're experiencing, your intention. So with all of that, I think you're just more open. I think there's a more openness to it, to where you are feeling a deeper connection with yourself, and you're more open to maybe feeling the energy and vibration of the things around you.
Yeah. I don't know. As I'm reflecting, it just seems like you're going there with more intentional reasons versus driving in your vehicle, going to this place to do breath work, and then getting back in your vehicle when you drive home. Versus this, when you're actually sitting there, it's more intentional. You're in this sacred place. So there's some spiritualness to it. But then afterwards, you actually get to sit back and be in that moment longer.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like I said, the stuff that we do here in town, which is awesome, I can't remember Harry's last name. Do you remember Harry's last name that runs
It starts
this?
with an R. Rosengrantz or something.
So if anybody knows that, Harry does a great job. And some of the other individuals that help lead that group.
Yeah. They do amazing job.
And they do retreats as well, but we haven't attended any of the major retreats that they have done for several days. But that's what I kind of think would be a little bit different, that you get to sit there for a little bit longer and this is where the journaling practice comes in, right? So how did that affect you with your mindset, your emotions throughout the retreat? And then also, how did the journaling practice impact your stay?
Yeah, I would say that made the connections for me. We talk about journaling a lot, and to actually have such a extreme benefit of journaling while I was going through this experience really become more apparent to me. it just really assured and affirmed the importance for me in using journaling for processing and for debriefing on things. It was just imperative to my ability to be able to learn and to process. And I agree exactly what you said, is that all those things we did together, and then between each time I got to sit back and reflect. And I had my journal. Darren gave me a journal for my birthday that I brought down there with a horse on it, the fire horse. And so I used that specifically for that retreat. And I was able to process through many things that was on my mind and what was coming up for me. And then I even, like, for moments of, deep connection, I then decided I wanted to research more things. I was looking at the meaning of things. I was writing down things, everything came to me very differently, to where I was being given reminders and messages and hints along the way, and I was open to it all. So I was just literally having conversations with Mother Earth and the surroundings around me, and people. But it wasn't just about my conversations with people. It was my conversations with the trees, and it was conversations with the gecko, and conversations with the daddy longleg. It was like the connection that I had was through that, and then I would put it down on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So the putting it down on paper then again helped me process between each sessions in the morning, in at the daytime, in the evening. And that was a way for me to really connect and reflect with myself, stabilizing my system, right? Being able to process everything that was going on in my head to make sense for me.
Yeah. I think it's much different experience than going down in Mexico to Cabo or these other places where you go to party and drink and sit by the pool. And
Different experience.
Different experience. And then
So
just going
all
down
great
there for
for people.
for a breathwork retreat to actually to get closer to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? To
Yeah.
really reflect and take a deeper dive into that. So the group dynamic, what was that?
Yeah.
How did that influence part of your journey? And that you went down there also with some individuals, one, Lori, my coach, and AJ, who's a part of the group as well.
Yeah. And Jen.
And Jen, Lori's
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
And then a heroic, someone that
Yana.
we're connected
Yeah.
to within heroic
Yeah.
is there as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's challenging. You don't know what to think when you go down there with people you know. At the same time as it was very eye-opening to me, because the universe wanted me to get to know the people I went down there with better by the actions that we were given, the opportunities we were given. So that was apparent to me, which I thought was pretty amazing. I was like, oh, cool. This is more of an opportunity to get to know each other even more, even though I've known Lori since I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome. I have to give a shout out to AJ, because she was an amazing roommate. And like I've told you, we laughed and giggled and had deep thoughts and chatted the whole time, which was amazing experience in itself. And it was lovely to get to know her more. But in itself, as I think we had 14 participants, in itself, having that many people there sharing their intentions and then sitting in circles facing each other where you're sharing vulnerable things, being prompted, questions. I thought a huge empowering part of that is that you're given a prompt and you share that question, or you share that answer, and nobody responds to you. So you get to put it out there. You're just like, I'm putting it out here. This is my thought. And nobody's telling you whether it's right or it's wrong, or that giving you advice on it. It's yours. And I think that's a really empowering part of it, where you get to share it. Each person gets to share it, and you get to listen to everyone else share an answer to that question. And then you get to sit back and just be. It's just a powerful presence of a moment. And it opens your heart. You're not worried about anyone responding to you in a manner that's saying you're wrong, or oh no, you're great. You share something that's maybe impactful for you, or that changed your life, or that you're challenged with. Nobody's saying to you, oh, you're fine. You're amazing. You're just an amazing person. Don't worry about it. So you get to sit with it, and some people might not totally like that, but I realized how much I did appreciate that no one was there to save me. I was there to save myself.
Yeah. During the retreat, were there any anything that was challenging for you, whether it was physical or emotional, anything that came up during the breathwork sessions that you weren't expecting, or?
A lot came up during the breath work that I wasn't expecting, but one of the things, and I'll keep those memories to myself for now. The one that I thought was probably most impactful for me, that is probably something that I needed to have happen, is something that I did need to have happen, because I like to be tough and strong, and I have a competitive nature, and I like to show that I'm able to do whatever is set out in my path. And so during that time, we had two sacred sweat lodges, and they're called, I believe they're Anipis. And we have local chief and some wonderful, beautiful, sacred Native women and men who put this ceremony on for us. And I want to just say something about the ceremony itself, because it helps with kind of my challenge that I did have. So these ceremonies are sacred, and they're purification ceremonies, and they are done by a local chief. So they're all spoken in native language, so we have an interpreter. And these are prayerful rites that are meant to restore balance between the body, spirit, community, and the natural world itself. And you're supposed to look at the lodge as like a womb, and it's not, you can't stand in it. You have to crawl around in it, and there's a pit in the middle. And they build this from bent saplings, right? And they tie them and they create a dome. So it's all like beautifully made. I mean, I was looking at it, and there's ribbons and things, and they cover it with either hides or blankets that are very symbolic. And you're supposed to envision like you're returning to the womb of the earth in itself. And so they always have the doorway facing east, and which greets the sun and the new beginnings. And so there's always a fire, and that's the sacred flame. And that outside, there's a fire built with lava stones in it, which they call grandmother or grandfather. And because lava stones have been around for a very, very long time, and they have wisdom. So they build this sacred flame, tending with prayer outside. So it's been building under these flames and wood for hours and hours before you even get there. And then they basically take these stones, lava, volcanic rock, and they carry memory and endurance and wisdom. And so you all get in and you come around. The women go first and the men go second. And then you can't, if it's men and women together, sometimes it's all one sex, and they have to sit a little bit apart. And then the women come in and the chief come in, and then they start to carry the stones one by one. So they have these antlers. So the guy outside brings in the first stone, and it's like this. I was sitting by the door. It's like this heat just passes by you, and the woman picks up the rocks with antlers and sets it into the middle pit. And there's like 5 or 6 of them, and they're just radiating heat, right? And so they greet him each time, and because they think of them as elders and not as an object themselves. And so they very much bless in prayer for everything, and they bring the water in that's infused with like sweetgrass and sage, and they have oils and different resins that they're putting on every stone when they come in. And so it's very spiritual. And so this is building up, right? It's happening, and you're just thinking, okay, what's going on? And so then they end up, they talk to you, they say beautiful wisdom, and they shut the door. It's pitch black. You're now in the womb, right? And so they start to pour the water onto the stones, and it starts to, these beautiful sounds start coming, and then they start drumming. And I was right by the chief, so my head was right there by the drum. They start drumming and singing prayer, and they create this deep connection, this vibration. And they do these 4 rounds. So they'll do that. They'll open the door, and they'll bring in new rocks, right? They're always reheating. So there's 4 rounds. So the first time we did it, because we got 2 opportunities 2 days apart, the first round is about the East, and that's beginning, clarity, and truth. And then the second round is about growth, relationships, and trust. And as they were bringing the volcanic rock in for the second round, I started having like this fight or flight moment, right? I totally was very much in my head, not in my heart. And I started thinking survival mode, survival mode. So I was frantically looking around and I caught eyes with the guy across and I said, I need to get out of here. And he grabbed Alex, who is one of the women, and said she needs to get out. And she said, just take some deep breaths, just wait for the rocks to pass and then you can leave. And so the rocks passed and she said, just remember you can come back. And so I jumped out as fast as I could go. And once I got out of there, I was totally fine. And I was like, what's going on? And so I was waiting for them to open the door again. And then I asked permission to go back in. And then I went back in. And what I learned was that was okay. I show up all the time and I think that I need to be the best at everything. And it was a really humbling moment where I got to let go of my ego and not worry about the fact that I didn't care what anybody was thinking. I didn't care what they were thinking. Everybody just shared love and thought I was so brave to come back in because they were like, if I would have left and tried to come back, I don't think I would have come back. So it was a very meaningful moment for me to know that I can fail, right? We talk about faithful attempt and learning. I can fail. I can experience that and I can come back stronger. And what I appreciated about that is not only did they allow me to come back in, but they did it with love. And I was even more present. And I allowed myself to have a moment where I didn't have to be the strongest person. Nobody else left. It was just me. Mm-hmm. And I was still proud of myself. So I came back and they did the door 3, which was the introspection, healing, and letting go. And then 4 was wisdom, endurance, and gratitude. And what I appreciated is that I was so excited to get to have another opportunity to do that again. And I was able to stay not the next day, but the next day after that. I was able to stay through all the 4 doors the whole time and sing and prayer and feel just very strong. And really those, when you think about it, these sessions were 2 hours, at least 2 hours each. So that was empowering, but that was my biggest challenge, but it became a wonderful gift.
Yeah. It's a way to be able to look at that too and be humble.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing is coming back to these expectations that we have of ourselves. And sometimes we get humbled in certain situations and just be able to step back into it and just learn something new about yourself.
Yeah.
And still grow from that moment of strength. It's not a weakness.
No.
And it's being flexible, being able to bend in the wind, just like the trees.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how we can wrap this towards the end here. One of the things that you talked about was expectations and intention. And so myself will be going to this retreat next year.
Yeah.
And so to best prepare or think about what I could do different or any aspects that I would need to do to have those intentions or my mindset into the right place, that would be beneficial for me to bring along. What are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely recommend leading up to it to really be intentful and thinking about it and doing maybe that primer exercise or create something specific to you of that 14-day priming and preparation. Being really curious about intentions as for a lot of things that we do, being curious about intentions and releasing the expectation. I was happy that I had no expectations. I actually didn't know a lot about it before I went into it. So I didn't, and I think that's a good thing to not give people like the exact, like, this is what we did and this is what we did and this is what we did. Because then people just have expectations of that's what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
What I appreciate.
It's different every time
to
some degree.
And it is. And that's the beauty of it too, is when we got there, usually when you go to like a retreat or something that's planned, right, for several days, there's an agenda and there's this and there's that. And it was freeing to let go of the fact that I needed to know what was going on every day. Mm. We didn't know what was going on from day to day. The only time we ever found out anything was by accident, by the locals maybe would mention something to us, or somebody would say, a little something, and then people would try to figure it out or something. But I loved not knowing what was coming so that I didn't have an expectation. And so what I when I was processing some of this too and thinking of what intention, I really was trying to be really clear the difference between intention and expectation. And intention is an inner direction. It's how you show up. It's how you choose to bring your energy and how you choose to open up yourself. And they can create spaces for growth and recovery. And an expectation is an attachment to a specific outcome. So how you think things should actually unfold. And expectations often create a pressure or a disappointment when reality takes a different path. And so that was eye-opening for me, because I think in life it's easy to have expectations. You know, when you're coming back home and you have expectations that the world might be different, knowing that the world is not going to be different just because you went on a 5-day retreat.
Mm-hmm.
But the important part of it is to know that only I can change myself and reflect on myself, and I can show up differently. And how is that going to impact the world? And I might not be able to save the world or change everything about the world, but by me being more intentional and maybe just having less expectation in others, to know that is going to create pressure, and that's going to be disappointing. You know, I have to put people on pedestals. I've had high expectations for self that are unrealistic, and that has just created disappointment for me. So that was a good reminder to have that intention. It's great to have the intention of how you want to show up. Maybe have a few things of things that you might want to process while you're there. Maybe some things that you might feel compelled to share, and then let that lead you wherever you want to go. Because that's what it seems that it does, is something, a topic or a thought sparks up. And then from there, what your soul needs is branched off into what you need to help you to get to your place that you need to get to during that time. And so that priming, there's also the integration is super huge, making sure that you're connecting with yourself each day, making sure you're integrating and being realistic about how you're not going to come back a perfect human. You're not going to come back, so enlightened that everyone and everything's going to go amazing for every moment in time. But you may look at things differently, and you may practice things differently. And then your evolution and your connection to yourself and others may change, through time. So it's just being really open to new experiences and thoughts. One thing that I got out of it that made things more empowering for me is just being really grateful for every person part of that process. The locals and the people around are really doing this not just as an act of like, you're a tourist. This is not a tourist event at all. This retreat is not a retreat that is
Costco doesn't sell this
no
retreat.
It's not a Costco thank you retreat. They don't even have a website yet, maybe sometime in the future, but this is a word of mouth retreat that is cherished.
You gotta know someone.
You gotta know someone.
Oh, it's like a VIP thing.
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna go find a sign up sheet somewhere or a waiting list or something. So I appreciated that, and that I was so grateful for Mother Earth and the sacred land, and just being present. Like I said, I completely went off any social media, and I'm so grateful for that. I've been home since Friday late night, so really Saturday, and today's Monday, and I still have not been able to muster up enough whatever to open up my social media. And I turned 50, and I'm just, I usually am loving and responding back to everyone wishing me happy birthday, and I still can't get myself to do it. Mm-hmm. There is a sacred thing that is like, I'm going to go back. We joked about going back to the real world, and then we joke and go, but is it? But is it real? So just really knowing that this is an opportunity to connect deeper, and knowing that, coming back and spending time with everyone and going back into work and integrating into the life you had before, you may have different thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. I think in anything that you're always going to be a different person, right? You're never the same person to any event or anything that you go to. When you leave, you're always somewhat changed, right? It's just that quote that you never step into the same river twice.
Yeah.
Right? Nor are you the same person that stepped into that river the first time. You're always completely changing. And so even at the beginning of this podcast to where we are now, there's some change that's been created.
Yeah.
So going into that, Brendan, I'm going to go next year, man. Do you think, does this sound enticing? You want to join?
I'll go the year after. No, but it does sound like fun. I mean, I've never done a retreat like anything like this, but it does sound like something that might be in my future someday. Like I like the idea of being intentional and going on a trip that like where it's not just like a vacation. It's like a actual like working on your mind instead of like trying to like how many different places can I hit in this country that I'm in? Like this sounds very relaxing. I shouldn't say relaxing, but it sounds like a way to like. I've had other friends do this, and it does sound like something that is calling me because like you talked about how the universe is telling you things, and I feel like the universe is constantly telling me like, Brendan, you need to work on your breath work and how you do all this because I'm constantly seeing the signs. So maybe someday.
Yeah. And again, I always like to bring in the right? The gratitude every time you get to do those things. You don't have to, right?
Right.
And so it's awesome, man. I know you just got back from Japan and you had a great experience over there. So you did the marathon.
Yeah.
Super excited about that. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, and then when Jessica was talking about that, I was thinking about my trip to Japan and how much, like it was so fast the entire time I was there. I ended up walking/running like 97 miles the entire time I was there. So like we were walking all over Tokyo, and then I did a marathon in Kyoto. But the one thing that really struck me about the Japanese culture and its people is that they have all this chaos around them. They have so much happening going on at all times, like, but they're so reserved and they're so calm and they're so like they just seem like they're on another plane. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking like I have trouble slowing down in Spokane, Washington.
Yeah.
Whereas these people are like living with 20 million other people in Tokyo, and they're able to find, well, at least it seems to me, outwardly, it seems that they are calm and I'm just like, how do I get that calmness and amongst my chaos that is what I consider here in Spokane. Yeah. So it is very like one of those things you like look back on and you're like, I want more of that. I want to be calm when there's so much chaos around me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's beautiful. Jess, is there anything else you'd like to share? The food, the trip, the pastries that you sent,
I took pictures of pastries and sent them to Darren, but I didn't actually eat any.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. I wanted to. On the way back at the retreat, the food was amazing. On the way back, all I wanted was some ice cream for my birthday, which I never ended up getting. And then we know that
you had it in the refrigerator.
Well, I have it now, but I was going to get some full like gelato, crazy like stomach hurting ice cream. But no, it was great. There was just so many wonderful moments. I think the thing that is most important to know is, as Brendan was saying, like the beauty, and they're so calm, and like, how do we bring back parts of it, right? How do we bring back when we go experience those lovely things, or we are awed by beauty, appreciation of beauty and excellence? Like, how do we just bring a piece of that back with us and not forget it, so that we can be calmer in our daily life and we can show up the best that we possibly can? And how do we apply some of those things that we learned when we do go? Because we all know we go somewhere beautiful, we go to a retreat or we go to a workshop and we're so gung-ho and amazed by it. And then we come home and it fizzles out after a few days. And so just keeping that practice, at least one thing that you can just keep trucking along with you.
During like life. Changing those habits, not getting back into the flow and letting yourself go back to the norm. And if it's something that you love and it's something that's beautiful, then again, be intentional with it and set yourself a protocol. Yeah. And how do you bring that itself in daily and not expecting to be perfect with it? But how practice makes better.
And I want to do one last shout out for Jacob, who leads the workshop, and Martin, who helps organize the workshop. And Caitlin was there helping, and Felix was there helping, and then obviously all the participants. But I want to shout out to all of them and thank them and appreciate all the work that they did.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going next year. So
I'm excited for you.
Thanks for taking your life to the next level with
Good vibes only.
Peace. Congratulations. And I want to say thank you for sticking with us and listening to this topic. But I want to leave you for some actionable steps that you can take immediately after listening to this podcast or once you get into your home if you are driving. I want you to think about writing down your answers to these focused questions. What is that one thing that you can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And then I'd like for you to schedule a time for that primary task that you just wrote down. So those are your actionable steps. Thank you.